Thanks everyone for coming. It's awesome to have such a big group today. My name is Sarah Boys. I'm the Works Coordinator at Merri Creek Management Committee, so doing the on-the-ground ecological restoration that goes on. I'm going to help Julie today just by moderating and sorting out any technical difficulties, hopefully, if it comes to that. So yeah, I'd like to introduce Julia. She's our Water Watch and Rapid Response to Litter After Rainfall Coordinator. She works within the Catchment and Education Program team at Merri Creek Management Committee. And yeah, a few of you guys might have met her before. If you haven't, she's great. So I'd just like to acknowledge that we're broadcasting today from Wurundjeri land, and so I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and say thank you for caring for all our waterways for many, many, many years. I'll just quickly go through the agenda. So Julia will be presenting 20-25 minutes, and then a Q&A at the end, about 15 minutes. The presentation is on the background of the Rapid Response to Litter program after rainfall, and where the litter has been found and what kind of data has been collected and what that data says. Julie will also go through collecting litter in 10 easy steps, some information around safety, information around how to collect data, and yeah, as I said, any questions at the end there. Great, so I'll hand over to Julia.
Wonderful, thank you, Sarah. That was fantastic, and welcome everyone. So just to start with, I'd really like to just sort of see who's here and see that the chat function's working, as well as just make sure I'm sort of gearing to what people are interested in. So I've just got a couple of questions here if you could just put these in the chat box. So the question is, have you collected litter along the Edgars or Merri Creek before? And if yes, can you add the location? So it could be the suburb or the closest road or landmark to if you have collected litter. So yes, do start typing that in. The other thing, if you haven't collected litter before, or even if you have, what are you most interested in learning about today? What are you wanting advice about, or I guess are interested in around litter collection? So I'll just give people a couple of moments to sort of answer that. And I can see we've already had Alicia near Rrlc Station and Paula around Northcote High, which is, I've found a bit of a hot spot around that area on the Merri Creek wetlands as well. Thanks, Maria, sorry. Yes, some people have said they've collected with Paul Prentice, who's definitely a regular with the Friends of Merri Creek, is a regular monthly litter cleanup. Great, people want to know about the safety measures, which is good, which is a big part of today. Great, Harding Street in Coburg. Oh yes, litter traps. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about litter traps. Great. It's great to see so many people are active already. So I'm sure you can all add a lot to the conversation. So feel free to do that during the chat as well. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and we'll start the presentation. Okay, so you can just see up there the name of the project that we've been working on for the last 3 years. So Friends of Merri Creek and Merri Creek Management Committee have supported the project, but it is a Friends of Merri Creek project. My email address is there. So after the presentation today, if you want to talk to me directly, please do, any questions. And of course, we've got the Facebook page as well. Friends of Merri Creek has also got an excellent web page with a section called Litter Collection. So the safety information I'm going to go through today is also on that page, so you don't have to remember it all. And of course, we're recording today anyway, so it will be there. So the Rapid Response to Litter in the Merri Creek Catchment After Rainfall, a bit of a mouthful, the title, is a 3-year project funded by the Victorian Government via the Port Phillip Bay Fund. And it's been coordinated in partnership with the Friends of Merri Creek and Merri Creek Management Committee and supported by the cities of Darebin, Moreland, Hume, Yarra and Whittlesea. And the Friends of Merri Creek has been operating for over 30 years and has now over 450 active members. So some of the activities that you can be involved in with the Friends of Merri Creek include plantings, citizen science, flora and fauna surveys, advocacy, and education of the Merri Creek catchment, as well as large litter cleanup presence on the riparian zone. So as I mentioned, not during restrictions at the moment, but usually there's a monthly litter cleanup with paw printers that you can join into. So the area we're talking about, of course, is the Merri Creek catchment, which you can see is represented by a nice big lime green squiggly line down the middle of this map. So the Merri Creek is around 60 to 70 kilometres long. It starts up in Moreland, and this area, especially in the upper reaches, was forested and I guess a lot of farmland, but in more recent years, in the last decade, pretty much 70 to 80% of the Merri Creek is now urbanised. So that's had an impact so far on the amounts of litter coming in and stormwater drainage. And I've talked a bit about Friends of Merri Creek, so I'll move on. But it is, I think, important to mention that it's been operating since 1988, so a pretty amazing effort. So we can see here, yes, the problem, a lot of litter. So this photo was taken probably about 6 years ago, just under Bell Street Bridge around Preston Coburg area. And you can see that the litter, the rain, it's actually subsided. It was actually a higher flow, but it's actually started to fall. We call it falling. I guess the water level started to fall, and we can tell it was higher than it is in the photo, because we can see along that walking path, that handrail, it's completely covered in litter, particularly a lot of organic matter. So there's leaves and grass and that type of thing. But you can also see what we've been terming plastic bag remnants. So soft plastics, those kind of plastics that you can scrunch in your hand, broken up into pieces, and that's probably happened over time. It might have come through the stormwater drain system, landed on the handrails there, and sometimes after that they might fall on the banks and be in the soil and sort of sit there in situ for a long time. So I guess this is why the project started. For many years, a lot of community, a lot of you here today have walked along or bike rode along these sections of the Merri Creek and after rainfall and seen this kind of thing and thought, oh, I want to do something about this. I want to get rid of this litter, which has been fabulous. So our project was really to just help support community doing that safely and providing a litter kit, and just acting as a conduit between community and council to sort of make this a little bit more efficient where we could, and safe. And we're also collecting information on the different types of litter as well, which I'll talk about a bit more and why that's important. So some of the things that we've achieved in the 3 years is nearly to a close for the Rapid Response After Rainfall project. One of the major aims was to support the community, as I mentioned. So today is one of those things that we've done. We've had training events like today. First time we've done it online. Most of it's been face-to-face to when I mean community leaders, people that have just approached me and said, look, I've heard about your program and I'd like to borrow the litter kit, and can you tell me where's a safe spot to collect litter? Or I have a spot that I know there's lots of litter. Can you just tell me what some of the things I should be aware of are? So we've been doing that for the past 3 years, and so far from 2018 to now, we've had over 900 participants spend over 100 hours at 59 events collecting litter. And of course, remember, these are just the ones we know about. There's lots of others that go on that are just organised organically that we don't know about. And within those events, we know of over 500 kilograms of litter, so over 10,000 items covering over 5 kilometres of riparian zone were removed. Doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, we haven't got litter data from all of those events, only the ones that people have given us the information. We've also helped promote and register people's events, because if we register events and promote them online, people's events are covered under the Friends of Merri Creek insurance. And we, as I mentioned, we act as a liaison conduit between council and community. And we also have a provision of a litter kit. So you can see in that photograph there, that's a litter event organised by RMIT, who organised a couple last year actually. And that little red trolley in the middle is our litter kit. So it's got bags, it's got gloves, it's got litter pickup sticks, it's got first aid kit, everything you sort of need to do a litter clean-up safely. Some of the other aims have been collection of the litter type and the amount of data. So we wanted to know, well, where is this litter coming from and how much are we getting? And that's where some of those statistics I showed you in the previous slide came from. If we just pick up the litter and we don't, sort of collect the data, we'll just continue to pick up litter, but will things actually change? And will we really know the patterns? Because I'm finding at different sites, there's different litter coming in, different amounts, and they're obviously coming from different areas. So the aim is to try and find out where it's coming from, the source. So we've been using the Tarrangora Blue National Marine Debris Initiative. They have an app, so it's litter data all over Australia. And so far we've had over 30 data sets collected. So about half of the events that people have run. Some of the other things that we've achieved as well is we've had a couple of workshops. So the picture on the right in the middle there is actually a stakeholder roundtable that we had in 2018. So that was with councils and Melbourne Water and Friends of Merri Creek and other community leaders to talk about what are the gaps, what are we missing, and what are the initiatives that different stakeholders are doing. So that was a really good process to go through, and we'll be having a follow-up one this year as well to see what's been achieved in the 3 years since we started this project. The other picture on the left is a community litter source reduction plan. So with the litter data that we have, I had some students from Melbourne University actually do an investigative report and present that at that workshop, as well as local councils and Melbourne Water also presented on their litter initiatives. And then the community started working together and trying to come up with some actions that they could do locally to try and reduce litter coming at the source. And we ran out of time at that workshop. It went really well, and I am going to plan to run another one hopefully later this year when restrictions ease. So the findings. So this was from the data sets that we had, the students from Melbourne University started putting together some information about the main litter items that have been found in the litter cleanups. So this is from probably about 15 of the data sets that we had. So you can see from March 2018 to 2019, the different types of litter found, and overwhelmingly it's plastic, nearly 70%, followed behind by metal around 13%, and then glass. A lot of the glass we're finding is broken. There is some glass bottles and things, but it's mainly broken. Polystyrene, I went along to some of you might have as well, the Yarra keepers polystyrene on the Yarra, and which has a major part of polystyrene, but do bear in mind the litter that we've collected so far has just been from the banks of the creek, not inside. We're not able to collect it inside the creek itself because of safety issues with community. So we probably do have more polystyrene than this graph is representing. And this just gives you an idea of the top 12 litter items that have been collected within that data set. And again, you can see overwhelmingly it's plastic. Plastic film remnants, so that first image I showed you with the sort of plastic bags, that's ones that you can scrunch up. A lot of it, when it's remnants, we mean it's unidentifiable. It's probably shopping bags, single-use shopping bags, and probably plastic food packaging, but it's just so broken up that we can no longer tell what it is anymore. So sort of you can see the first 4 litter items in that list are made out of plastic. And then another 3 or 4 in that top 12 are also plastic derived. Straws wasn't as big as I thought, second last there, under confection sticks, cups and cutlery, but it's still definitely part of the litter stream in these sections of the Merri Creek. So this was the area that those statistics that I just showed you came from. So in between Moreland Road and Glen Lyon Road, and those red dots are just representing the drain outlets. And of course the blue line is the Merri Creek. So you can see there's a lot of outlets coming into the creek where we're getting this information. 2 of the sites that we've been collecting, I guess we've got the main interest from the community to collect litter, is at Brunswick East site next to Ceres, so the section of the creek next to Ceres, and then also another site we're calling down the bottom, the Sumner Park site, which is next to Northcote High School. And you can see all those little orange dots represent cleanup sites. So when the students put the investigative report together, those statistics, they just grouped the ones in the northern part, those sort of 5 orange dots together as one site, and then the other dots down the bottom there was about 8 sort of sites there as one site to just make it a bit easier. And this has been the 2 most popular sites. And to pick up litter, I'd suggest if you are wanting to pick up litter, these are good sites to go to. They're safe. good safe sites to do, and there is always litter. One of the things the students did also was I tried to get them to see if they could find the source of where this litter was coming from. And you can see it's quite complicated. So in the northern part, this is the part in the series, you can see the red lines represent the drains underground. The blue dots are the collection pits, so those concrete pads, those square concrete pads that you get on the streets. So, and then of course the yellow dot is the end structure, so the outfall where it ends up in the creek. And you can see there's a lot of blue dots. So trying to discover where a plastic bag remnant is coming from is near impossible. And even cigarette butts or straws, unless they've got branding on them, it's very difficult to find out where they're coming from. And then if we look down at the Northcote High site, even more complicated. So you can see hundreds of collection pits in the blue dots, and only 2 end structures, which makes it even more difficult. So as to where particular litter is coming from is really anyone's guess. So it was quite impossible for the students to do this, to find out where the source was. So instead, what we did is we decided, well, let's look at potential litter sources. So we removed residents because we know residents are obviously a group that are probably potentially littering, most likely from overflowing bins when people put their bins out for litter collection, and after those bins have been emptied as well. So when the bins are put back after the garbage trucks have gone through, if the litter's not collected, if there's been a bit of, I guess, spillage, that's sort of occurring. But that was quite complicated. So we sort of removed the residents from the picture and just put the major businesses that could be potentially contributing to the litter in the creeks. And it was quite interesting just having a look in that section of the Merri Creek what the major businesses are. As you can see, it's eateries, so sort of about 29.1% in the pink, cafes, bars, restaurants, that kind of thing. Followed by stores and sort of supermarkets, so that retail sort of section there, and then hair salons. And really only a small part manufacturing and car repair. What's that? Car repairs in the dark blue, about 4.4%. So in this section of the catchment, manufacturing is quite small, but it's more the eateries that are potential sources. So that was quite interesting to sort of get an idea of the people that we should be connecting with in the future to sort of talk about litter sources. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background there, and I know I'm running out of time, so I will get to sort of the main part that I think a lot of people are quite interested in, is litter cleanup in 10 easy steps, because they're so easy. So these are the things we've sort of come up together in consultation with Council, Melbourne Water, and others to sort of make sure that we're giving as much safety information as possible. And this is also including what we're in our current restrictions at the moment. So the first thing you should do is pick a location on the Merri Creek or surrounds that needs the litter removed. So you probably, some of you already know of litter hotspots that you would have seen on your walk or your bike rides along the creek. Or if you're not sure, yeah, definitely talk to me. I've mentioned those 2 sites that we already have litter data on, and we'd love more information on all the sites. That they're all good spots that have quite a lot of litter. And the other thing is not just finding a litter hotspot, but finding a spot that's safe to actually remove litter. And when I mean safe, we're talking about places that don't have a lot of long grass. Long grass hides holes. If you're trying to pick up litter and you're walking through long grass, you're going to miss those holes. So you could have a strain or a sprain of an ankle. The other thing is picking up litter not far from the walking path is a really good idea as well. Not getting too close to the water's edge where it's more likely that you could potentially slip over. The other thing we do recommend is not picking up litter on your own, just going along with a friend or someone else just to make sure that you are safe. And I can give more information on site safety as well. I've done a number of site safety assessments along different parts of the Edgars and Merri Creek and can certainly tell you where to go that's safe. Number 2, pick a date and time to go out with friends or family. And of course, please keep up to date with the Victorian Government COVID page for updates. So, you know, as most of you are probably aware, they update that almost daily. So, and we're going to be having lessening of restrictions in June, which is great, but it's still very important to just keep up to date with what's going on there on the website. Then number 3, check the weather forecast and ensure the water level of the creek is not too high. So you can see that photograph I've got there on the top left. That was just about a month ago, sort of end of March, early April. And that's near Connolly Avenue in Coburg. So Coburg north of Bell Street. And that river, the part of the section of the Merri Creek there is normally an eighth of the size. So it was a huge increase of water over 24 to 48 hours maximum. So it really gives you a good idea that you really should wait at least a couple of days, even a bit longer, after we've had heavy rainfall. So anything over sort of 10 millimetres of rain, really good idea to wait a little bit. The other issue is if you're going to sites, say they are under major causeways, under road bridges, and they sort of dip down into a gully area, if it is still raining when you go down there, or the rainfall only happened about 12 hours ago, it's still the creek is still going to be rising in rainfall level. It's not going to stop. So you could sort of cut off your escape route there. So it's very important to wait. It can be really frustrating to see a lot of litter, but obviously safety is paramount. Number 4, read over the safety information on the Friends of Merri Creek litter collections page. I'm going over it here now as well, and it's also on the Facebook page, but really important to just make sure you're covering everything. One of the other things I'll mention too that we talk about in the safety page is syringes. So normally in our litter kit, we actually have a syringe pickup and litter pickup sticks to pick up things like syringes. At the moment, please don't pick up syringes. You can take a photo and email me, let me know, and I can ask council cleansing team or our team at Merri Creek Management Committee, the ecological restoration team. They also have appropriate equipment to actually deal with it. So please don't pick up syringes at the moment. But you can take gloves and a bag to pick up your litter. And do let me know if you need gloves and bags, because I've got plenty of them. These are the gloves we use. I'm not sure if you can sort of see that there. They are those tipped gloves. So they've got that sort of plastic tipping over them. They're a cloth glove with plastic tipping. They're Clean Up Australia Day, give a lot of those out for free. We've got lots of them. So we're happy to lend them out for the duration of the restrictions. So at the end of restrictions, you can return them and we wash them and reuse them. But yes, you can keep them for as long as you like. We've also got bags. So we've got things like the Clean Up Australia Day. See if you can see that in that camera there. Not very well, really, but they're those yellow Clean Up Australia Day bags, and we've got white ones as well. And I've also got Hessian bags. So Hessian bags are really good because they will break down in landfill eventually, so they can be a bit better. But the ones I just showed you there, the white bags and the yellow bags, it's best to actually reuse them. So once you've picked up the litter along the creek, take them home. The yellow one's good to put into recycling. So recycling that's not contaminated. So if you're finding glass bottles and plastic bottles that aren't encrusted in mud and full of water and other things, you can certainly take them home and recycle them in their recycling bag. Otherwise, they'll have to go into normal landfill. I have been talking to councils at the moment during COVID restrictions, and most of them have said that they're still happy to pick up your litter. So if you're going out with a larger group of people and you pick up, say, 6 or 7 large bags of litter and it's too much for people to put in their car to take home or to carry home, you can actually put it out on a major street nearby and let council know. So on the Friends of Merri Creek litter collections page, there's actually a table there with each council and what they want you to do to actually come and pick up the litter. So that's definitely possible as well. The other thing I'd really love people to do as part of our collecting data is to, when you're at the site, take a photo of what it looks like before you pick up the litter, then obviously pick up the litter, and then what it looks like afterwards. And share that on our Facebook page, or if you're not on Facebook, please email the photos to me and I can post them. We've already had some, I think it's Jessie has already put up some photos on our page, and they're also on the Friends of Merri Creek Facebook page. And it's really amazing to see. She basically saved a tea tree, I think it is, was covered in plastic bags and removed them all. So it's really great to see that before and after. And if you can, it'd be really great to take a photo of your group of you picking up litter so we can see who you all are and what you've done. And if you don't mind, some of those I'd love to share on our social media. And if possible, I'm down to number 9 there, do a litter sort and upload your litter collection on the Tarrangorra Blue Litter Collections app. I know there's another app some people are using called Litter Stopper. I know the Love Our Streets, for example, use that. That's fine as well. Or just send me a bit of a breakdown in an email. I'd really love to, have more information so we can continue telling people about what the data is telling us. With your gloves, number 10, with your gloves, please clean and store your gloves and bags for another day. So once you've disposed of the litter, if you're only getting small amounts and you're taking it home, just put your bags and gloves up on your washing line to just air out for the next time you go out. Or obviously if you've got a large amount and the council are picking them up, they can't give you back the bags, but you can always ask me for more. I've got plenty. And I know there's a lot of coffee companies around that are giving out their Hessian bags as well. So I have got a list of those places if you want to pick up your own bags. I've also got volunteers. People are happy to deliver bags and gloves to your house as well. So I've had some people say they're happy to pick them up from my office and bike ride them around the catchment. So please do get in touch if you do want gloves or bags. And that's all. Thank you, everyone. I'll stop sharing and go over to chat and questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Julia. So I was keeping an eye on the chat. I didn't get any questions through the chat, so now's the time to raise your hand if you guys want to ask Julia anything. And hopefully I can see that coming up.
Yeah, I can see chat.
Yeah. I might ask one quickly that just came up at the start when you were asking about people's experience. Bianca asked about if there were any more plans to put in more litter traps along the creek, Julia. I'm not sure if you would know about that.
It's a great question. I know, and I think we've actually got Tammy here Tammy Shearer from Council, I think. I noticed, I think is in the chat as well. So Tammy may want to, if she puts something in the chat, if she's happy to, she may want to answer what. So Tammy's a waste education officer from the City of Moreland. She may want to answer that. But yeah, she just said hi all. So Sarah, you may.
Tammy, are you happy for me to unmute you?
And see if she. Yep.
Great. Hi, Tammy.
Hi there. Oh, thanks, Julia. That was excellent. Yes, to answer the question about stormwater traps, we're actually doing an assessment at the moment of our litter infrastructure, our stormwater system, and looking at different options for structural interventions to stop the flow of litter into the creeks. So yeah, we've got some consultants working on that for us, and we're expecting the first draft in mid-June. So we'll have a bit more information after that, but it's definitely something we're looking at.
Cool. And Tammy, I might just add to that as well from Bianca. She also asked if there was a likelihood of more bins being put around just to encourage more casual litter pickups.
That's not part of this project. So this is looking at more what's happening in the drainage system. I think if there are particular sites that you think people think there is a need for additional bins, that's something we are constantly responding to. So, feel free to get in touch with council and suggest locations for additional bins.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tammy. And sorry to put you on the spot there, but I thought it was really good coming from council. And just on the litter traps as well, there's a great project that Moreland Council was involved in called Strain the Drains, and Friends of Merri Creek on their Facebook page have just shared the video on that project, where they actually put in a whole lot of litter traps in stormwater pits, and then a lot of people were involved in working out what was in there, and it's a really interesting project. And I know they're that's with Tarrangorra Blue and Sustainability Victoria, and Moreland Council is one of the participants of that particular project. So that's a really excellent project, and it looks like it's going to continue on, so that's a really good one. And there is one litter trap just downstream of Ceres as well, which people might be aware of, and it's really great to see that Moreland's going to be doing a bit of a look at to see what could be also done, you know, because obviously maintenance is a big issue with these things. You've got to have the budget to come and clean them out as well. So that's always an ongoing issue. But it would be great to see a couple more. And I know Merri Creek Management Committee, we're quite keen on them as a education thing as well. Would be really good. I just see Maria's asked a question about disposal, just confirming that we take it home and put in our landfill bin. Yes, you can take some home if it's recycled. So if you get glass bottles, plastic bottles, cardboard that's pretty clean, so just like at home, if it looks pretty clean and not contaminated, and you're happy to separate it, put it in that one of those yellow recycle bags and take it home and separate it. And if you're with a group of people, a couple of people might elect, oh, look, I'll take that home and put it in my recycling bin. But if you're getting a large amount of litter and councils coming to pick it up, some councils can't, unfortunately, separate it. It's just too much time for their cleansing team, so everything will just go in landfill. So if you are really concerned about that, it's probably best to separate the recycling, the uncontaminated stuff, and put it in your own bin at home. Any other questions? I think we've got some things coming up, haven't we?
Yeah, so Monica's written, a couple of comments there. It can just be easier to take it home yourself. Obviously, if you're on a bike or something, you might not be able to, but oh, here we go. Tony, do you collect data on the brands or manufacturers of the litter when you're picking it up?
Excellent question. We should. We haven't as yet. And one of the shortfalls with the Tarangara Blue app we were using, it just grouped everything together, like straws, cups, and we weren't separating it. At the moment, Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning is putting together something called Litter Watch, which is a data portal. And then you can actually select things a bit easier. So we are planning to collect on brands. And I know Tarangara Blue actually were looking at in that Strain the Drains project. They were there was a particular shop, I think it's Bubble Tea, where they make bubble tea, and it was very a particular brand makes that bubble tea, so it was easy to trace where it was coming from. So I agree. I think that's a really great thing that we should be focusing on next, trying to work out what the brands of different things, if it's clearly identifiable, and that'll make it easier to sort of talk to those distributors rather than just lumping it all in one thing. And you know, cups and straws, we know they're around, but we don't know where they might be coming from. So I think that's really our next step, is to try and focus on, when people are in the community collecting litter data, if they can, separating out things that are clearly identifiable by a brand or a particular type would be really good.
Great. And from Jay, thank you for the talk, Julia, and just asking, how big are the bags that you have? Jay has some at home. Just wondering how different they would be.
Good question. Let me just show you take away my virtual background and excuse my mess at home.
You can actually see them. That's good.
Yes, you can see. So I just want to sort of show you. So they're pretty big. So you can fit quite a lot in those, and that's the thing, they can get pretty heavy. So if you're just collecting out on your own, I'd suggest one bag, you know, depending on how strong you are. I guess though, if you're just collecting plastic remnants, they're not that heavy, so depending on what you find. So we've got lots of those bags, you know, they're pretty big, and it doesn't, so I'm not saying you have to have a particular type of bag. It's totally fine. I'm just saying that we've certainly got lots here that we're happy to give out, and so do a lot of those coffee companies. I mean, otherwise a lot of these bags just go into landfill, I suppose, if people don't use them. So reusing bags is probably even better. You know, I think most of us want to try and reduce the amount of litter going into landfill where we can, and really the only things we can do is reuse the bag. So, you know, empty your rubbish into your bins at home, air out the bags and reuse them again, because those ones I have, I mean, they're just another plastic derived, aren't they? So if you can reuse them, it's really good. But unfortunately, some things, they're either too contaminated, or if you're picking up a lot of litter, the council can't sort of give you back your bags, so you sort of lose them that way. So yeah, we're all trying to do the best we can, I guess.
Great, thanks, Julia. And from Simon, he was just wondering about if there's any other data or insights from other catchments around Melbourne or even overseas, and what we can learn from that in terms of community education.
Yeah, great question. There is. I know that Stony Creek has got a litter, something similar to this webinar coming up. Actually, maybe it was today as well. So I know there is Stony Creek's doing stuff. The Strain the Drains project that I talked about, because that covers a number of catchments. I think City of Greater Dandenong, I think it might be City of Maribyrnong, and a couple of others around Melbourne. So there's definitely some data there. And Tarrangara Blue collects data all over Australia. So there's a lot of information there. There's also another app called Litter Stopper, which is put together by the bay keepers, so around Port Phillip Bay. So they've got lots of data, and that's another free app like the Tarrangara Blue one I mentioned, Litter Stopper it's called. You can also download that for free, and I'm pretty sure you can get reports on that. So once you download that app, and that's on my list to do too, to actually download that and have a play with that. You can actually have a look at the data as well. So Love Our Streets in Darebin, they've been using Litter Stopper app and collected litter data, I think around Edwards Lake and perhaps other parts of Darebin. And the Darebin Creek as well, they're also using the Darebin Creek Management Committee and Friends of Darebin Creek, or also using the Litter Stopper app. And so they're just the ones I know about. I'm sure there's a lot more. So there's a lot of litter data collection going on. And with this new Litter Watch, which is a Victorian data portal put together by DELP, there'll be a lot more data accessible for everyone. So the aim of that Litter Watch is it's a one-stop shop that everyone can come. Anyone from the community can come and just pick an area on the map, and they want that information about what litter's there. So we want this data to be used. So yeah, there's a lot of projects going on.
We've got a few more questions coming through from Phoebe's just wondering what to do with organic matter caught on handrails, etc. If it's just organic matter, can you just pile it up to break down naturally, or should it be taken away?
Great question. Normally when I run a litter cleanup, I've left it at the site, perhaps in a pile. If there's a lot of it, I'd probably talk to Sarah and the MCMC bush crew to come and remove it, or council. You can, if you're happy to take it home with you, you can put it in your green waste bin. So most councils have a really good web page on their organics and green waste bin if they have that service. Again, though, making sure that it's not contaminated. So if it's got bits of plastic through it and things like that, you can't put it in your green waste bin. So yeah, I've mainly tried to separate it. And if it's leaves, like eucalyptus leaves and things like that, I've just scattered it back on a planting site if there's one nearby, just to leave it in situ, rather than it's just a small weight to carry out. So again, depending on how contaminated it is, if it's really contaminated, it's probably best to take it home and put it in landfill.
Great. And we've also got Monica's just letting people know about Snaps and Solve, which is an app which is really helpful for alerting councils to things like overflowing bins or rubbish and things like that. Not all councils, I can't remember which ones are, but that's a good thing to try. And Jay is asking about litter stuck on branches that are not easy to access. Are there any tools that you've used, Julia, to try and get this off, or is there anything that you can suggest to people how to?
Yeah, great question. First thing, obviously, your safety is paramount. So if it's something that you're having to try and lean over and get, I'd suggest don't do it. We do have some litter pickup sticks. Unfortunately, I can't lend them out at the moment because we're in restrictions. So you can't really at the moment do anything about that. The only thing I could suggest is you take a photo of it, share it to our Facebook page, share it to council, send it to council as well, and just alert their cleansing teams. Melbourne Water also has a crew that they send out to do spots that community can't do, as well as they can do it as well, because they've got to look after their staff as well. So you will find certain spots around the catchment that there's litter there, probably been there for years, because we just can't access it. It's just not safe. But please do alert us of those sites, because there might be something we can do. We can follow them up with council and others. But yeah, safety's first. Oh, the other thing I might mention there is some people can bring from home just those nippers, like just little tongs. If you've got some old tongs at home, some of them are a little bit longer. You could perhaps use that as a reach. But other than that, at the moment, yeah, unless you want to invest in a longer litter pickup stick, I think they're about $40 or $50 though, which, yeah, when restrictions ease, we can lend them out. But at the moment, you might not really want to invest your money in one of those and just have to leave the litter.
I've got one more question. I'll just double check. I can't see anyone's hand raised. I'm just hoping that that's just because everyone's asking their question through the chat. So if you are sitting there with your hand up, being ignored by me, just let me know in the chat. That would be great. But otherwise, I'll ask this last question and then maybe one or two more. It's from Arishi. If we get injured while collecting litter, for example, from broken bottles, is there any support that we can get from council or Friends of Merri Creek?
Great question. So the idea is if you register that you're going out to collect litter, the Friends of Merri Creek insurance will cover you. So if that means if you do get injured, you'd go to hospital and fill out a report, and if there is any cost involved, our insurance would cover you. So that's one of the main reasons we put this grant together, is that we wanted to let community know that there is support there for them if they do get injured. But of course, making sure that you're following all our instructions, so the safety guidelines, if you're following those instructions and we know you're going out. So we normally do ask people if they've got a small group of people they're going out with. We have a participation sheet, we get them to fill it out, or you just send me an email and give me the names and the email addresses or mobile phone numbers of people, so we have a register of who's going out, and then you're covered under our insurance.
Great. And so yeah, potentially the last question here from Tony. You've noted safety concerns regarding picking up litter within the creek. One, would it be okay to use a swimming pool net? I'm not sure. I think you have done that, Julia. And two, does anyone, perhaps hired workers, actually go into the creek and do a cleanup of rubbish that can't be reached by volunteers?
Oh, great questions. So we are not really recommending people to go and use nets or get in waders in the creek. So thanks for bringing this up, actually. We're normally trying to, you can see the photo behind me, sort of at the water's edge and then up to where it slopes to the footpath. We call that the bank. Those areas we're not really encouraging people to go on, especially after heavy rainfall. If you feel safe, and you can see in the background of that picture there's a bit of area that's mown grass, so it's not long grass, and you feel safe and it's not slippery, you can certainly go and pick up litter there. But we're not, in this photo in the background here, I wouldn't suggest going out on a day like that. You can see we've just had a lot of rain and the flow of the creek's quite high, so you'd be waiting for that to subside, probably at least another half a metre before you'd even go out. In regards to using swimming pool nets, and I know some groups, I've seen them on Facebook, they've put photos of themselves putting on fishing pants or waders and going into the creek. At Friends of Merri Creek, we don't advocate that. Obviously, we can't stop people doing that, but if you were doing it under our guidelines and something happened, I don't know whether the insurance would cover you because you're not following our guidelines. So we don't really recommend it. Waders, particularly fishing pants, and using swimming pool nets is a little bit dangerous. If the water flows a bit high or you're slipping, especially if you're on your own. So we don't really recommend it unless you're perhaps had some training. With the Water Watch training days that we have, we sometimes do a little bit of that, but it's sort of got to be under good supervision to do that. So we don't really advocate doing that. And I understand it's really frustrating when you see this litter, it's just out of arm's reach and you can't get it. Unfortunately, it's not really for us to do. And so the other question that was asked, a part of that question I can see, does anyone actually go into the creek and do cleanups? I do know there's been community, Tarrangorra Blues certainly organised some, and I'm sure there's other councils and others, Melbourne Water and others that have done it. They've had canoe trips, especially on the Yarra, and they've gone out into the mainstream and collected litter. And then there's great, they're big hoses that suck, and they can actually go out into reed beds. I've seen them out on the Yarra River, and I think if any of you saw that War Against Waste series, they had someone doing that, going out and using one of those big hoses to suck up through the reed beds, polystyrene in particular. So there are crews that do that. On the Merri Creek itself, I don't know how often they go out. I'm not sure how large a priority the Merri Creek is in compared to other sites around Melbourne. So that's definitely, I know it happens, but how often it happens is another question. Yeah, so I think we all have seen certain amounts of litter still around the creek in certain sections that either has not been deemed a high priority, or perhaps it's just too unsafe even for staff, train people to collect that litter.
Great. Thanks, Julie. I've got one last question. I'll just let people know I've entered in a link to the feedback form just for today's session, in case anyone had to head off. If you could click through on that if you have the time, to let us know what you thought about today. Obviously, we're trying out new things here in engaging with you all, so it'd be great to get some feedback. And I'll ask the last question from Thea. Thea's currently doing a project at uni on social behaviour change, and we're looking at how to encourage people to pick up litter on the creek. She's thinking an idea might be to partner with grocers near the creek who have spare bags and provide gloves and litter collecting information for customers so they feel more equipped to get out there. Do you think this could actually be viable? It seems like a good time to develop more interest in litter collection with people spending more time on the creek at the moment.
I love that, Thea. That sounds fantastic. And I think part of this 3-year grant was really, and that community workshop I mentioned, was to get those kinds of ideas from you guys that are locals, that know your creek, that know people around you that might be interested, that know the business owners. Some of you are business owners. So I think that's really important to involve businesses and different in partnerships that way. I think it works really well, and that's what I'm here to help with. Some of the good news is this project was a 3-year project, and the funding has been extended due to COVID guidelines restrictions. So we've sort of got some funding till about springtime. But the good news is Moreland's committed to, City of Moreland's committed extra funding to keep me on as the rapid response to litter after rainfall coordinator, so to continue this support. And the City of Darebin's also committed some funds as well. And I think Yarra might be as well. I'm still waiting to hear back from them, and Whittlesea. But the good news is that it'll continue on to at least another 12 months. So that support, and for me to help you work with businesses or other community members to sort of put something together. I've actually been approached by a number of businesses in the catchment. We actually had 3 litter cleanups coming up when the restrictions happened that we have to have postponed. But businesses are really keen in being involved. They're part of the catchment and they want to be part of the solution. So yes, please, I love, this is why we got the funds. We want to do this kind of thing. So please keep those ideas coming in, and please let me know how I can help, or even if you don't need help, but we're happy to promote it on the Merri Creek Litter Cleanups Facebook page, on the Friends of Merri Creek Facebook page, on our websites, anyway, Instagram, any way that we can. Please let us know and keep up that great work. It's great, Thea.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. I'll hand over Julie now to wrap up.
Yeah, I don't have a chance to say really other than thank you for the great questions. Thank you for coming. Please do fill out the feedback form on that link and please give us any information. We will be recording this talk, so thanks for answering that for Helen and Sarah, and it will be available. I'll either email it, or I think we will put it on the website as well. So Peter, Peter Batchelor, who's one of the members of today, is also here recording it for us as well. So that will be available, so I can post it out to others. And if there's a lot of interest, I can certainly run another one focused on particular areas. So if anyone had some areas on the creek that they wanted more information on, or more information on litter collection and the data itself, please do email me, or put it in the chat now. We'll save the chat after this talk anyway, and that's something I could focus on for another training session like this. If this is something that you found really useful and would like to see more of them, please let us know through the feedback or the chat, the feedback form or the chat, so we can continue doing this. And thanks everyone for coming. I want to thank Sarah for being an awesome moderator, and I want to thank all of you for your fantastic questions, and it just makes me feel really happy to see so many people are doing so much for the creek already, and want to continue doing that and spreading the word. So thank you for all the great work. Keep it up.